All right, so I want to take you back in time to January. The place was Santa Cruz County in California. The occasion, a fire burning in the mountains. But this was not a new fire. It was actually a flare-up of a fire that had begun 5 months earlier. Now, we call them zombie fires or overwintering fires, and they're on the rise. So here to help us understand the rise in these kinds of fires is Mann. He is the author of a book, The New Climate War, and director of the Earth System Science Center at Penn State. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's talk a little bit more about what exactly these zombie fires are.
Yeah, thanks. It's good to be with you. They sound really scary, don't they? And in a sense, that they are scary. What they are fires that can persist for very long periods of time. Some are fires that can actually persist through the winter and then reemerge in the summer in regions where there's a lot of peat and methane that's buried beneath the surface. And it can tap into all of that fuel. Look, if you have enough fuel, a fire can stay burning for 50 years. We have a town here in central Pennsylvania, actually the eastern part of Pennsylvania, called Centralia, where there's a coal mine fire that has been burning for 50 years. And so if you have enough fuel, these fires can continue to burn. And what we're doing is we're producing more fuel now in many regions like the Arctic because of the drying and heating from human-caused climate change.
Yeah, I want to ask you specifically about that because you mentioned methane here, and a lot of that can be from you can expose that because of melting ice sheets or snow. Can you give us a little bit more detail on how that works?
Yeah, there's a large amount of methane that's sort of frozen in the soils in the northern regions, in the Arctic, in Siberia. And so it has been sort of in this reservoir that hasn't been tapped in many tens of thousands of years. But because of global warming, because of the warming of the permafrost, we're now starting to destabilize some of that methane that had been frozen, and it's starting to mobilize. It's starting to make its way into the atmosphere. It also means that as it thaws, these fires can more easily tap into those methane reserves, and along with those peat, that peat that is beneath the surface in those regions, there's a huge amount of fuel that can keep these fires burning. What's getting them started in the first place? Hotter, drier conditions, more stable air masses because of global warming. Those are the conditions that are making those fires more favorable, but also they can tap into all of this fuel.
And we talk about how that melt can give us some of that extra oxygen. It also, once you get that melt happening, these fires can really take off quickly, correct?
They can because, peat, methane, these are very flammable materials. And we're seeing conditions that are a lot higher and a lot hotter and a lot drier than we've seen at these high latitudes before because of the warming influence of climate change. And so you sort of have this perfect storm of factors coming together, hot, dry conditions that are more favorable for these huge wildfires in northern regions, even in the Arctic, and all of this fuel that's available to feed those fires and allow them to persist for very long periods of time.
Are there certain states or regions that would be most susceptible? I'm thinking like our northern states, Canada.
Yeah, certainly. Once you get into sort of the northern states, the northern latitudes where you have these peat bogs and there's just large amounts of peat in the soil, you have the conditions for these wildfires. Look, Canada has seen record-breaking temperatures this summer, triple-digit temperatures that we've never seen before in that part of the region. And so we're making some of these regions hotter and drier. And when you do get into those northern regions, you do have these peat and methane sort of beneath the soil that can help feed these fires.
With the exception of, obviously our changing climate, is there anything else that can be done to prevent this?
Well, ultimately, part of the problem with climate change is that we are going to have to retreat from some regions that simply are no longer habitable. And it may be that just like we've seen in Australia and the Western US, with just a huge increase in the extent of wildfires in recent years, that may also become true for regions in the north, even up in Canada and in the Arctic. And there may be regions there where wildfires are so frequent and spread so quickly that they're no longer truly habitable for us and other living things. This is one of the sort of surprises that we fear that may lie in store. Things like these zombie fires that we didn't predict with climate models, but we're seeing them happen now.
Mm-hmm. Well, Michael Mann, we appreciate the insight. As always, your time. Michael Mann with Penn State. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, still to come on Weather Underground, how is this for a clear sign you should stay out of the water? Find out when this shark feeding frenzy happened just off a beach in the Northeast. Yikes!